Welcome to the happy hour. We'll be starting in just about 15 minutes. We'll be starting in just about 12, 15 minutes, something like that.
Ça roule. Okay, Lionel Briand, good morning. So Lionel, you wrote in IEEE Software that software engineering research is stuck in the mud. Is it like string theory and theoretical physics? Are we really stuck in the mud?
Well, I don't know if we're stuck in the mud, but what is clear from many indicators is that we have limited impact. And that impact is particularly limited if you take into account the genuine importance of the field in most industry sectors. We should have a much larger impact than we have.
I wanna be an engineer, so freaking bad. Optimize the things I've always had.
Hey, this is Dave Shepard, and welcome to the JSS Happy Hour. Today we'll be featuring a selection of videos from the latest and greatest JSS papers. We'll have a few videos featuring advice from associate editors. And we'll fill out our program with random clips from the internet. I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, I would have a show on Discovery, hoping that everybody in the country would watch me on the HD. I'd probably pull an Orville right in the Wilbur, build a plane and take the rudder and dip it in silver. Give away a few smartphones like Einstein, here, have this. Take my protractor out and do some mathematics. It's been a couple years since I've been single, so you can find me working late and living off ho-hos. Brain food for the intelligent. Sometimes I like to compliment myself for being smart, but you can call me brilliant. Yeah, call me a geek or maybe even nerd, but face the facts, we the one be ruling this world.
One thing we want to make sure is that you know this is an interactive event. For instance, take a minute right now and find the chat and get to know fellow participants. If you're having trouble chatting, make sure that you're logged in with your Google account. If you're still having trouble, it may be time for you to retire from this field.
I be playing Xbox with some scientists, working with geologists, maybe ask a girl I didn't get lucky with a little kiss. Or not because I have to formulate a program in C++ or going back and using Fortran. Toss a few equations in just for the heck of it. Solve my own problem just so I can delineate. Yeah, I be coming on a whole new level, like comparing HDMI to a coax cable. Sometimes I give directions with Euclidean vectors and transfer files faster on eSATA connectors. I know we all have a similar dream to build cantilever beams. It makes me wanna sing. I wanna be an engineer, so freaking.
And most importantly, don't forget to tweet during the JSS Happy Hour. It seems some people forget to tweet at virtual conferences. The preferred hashtag is JSS Happy Hour. Happy tweeting and enjoy the show.
Oh, every time I close my eyes, I calculate a new design, an efficient way to quantify. Oh, I swear my patent would be here if I was an engineer. Yes, if I was an engineer. I wanna be an engineer, so freaking bad.
Welcome to the introduction of Ekkola. Ekkola, method for implementing ethically aligned AI systems. Published in Journal of Systems and Software in 2021. Authored by Ville Vakkuri, Kai Christian Kemel, Marianne Jantunen, Erika Halme, and Pekka Abrahamsson. The high demand for ethical AI have overwhelmed the developers with ethical guidelines, principles, and requirements. Often, the abstract AI principles and guidelines are hard to implement in practice, leaving the developers without tools and practical means to address them. Ekkola transfers AI guidelines and principles to software engineering practices, providing software engineers something new in familiar packaging. Ekkola is presented in the form of 21 cards and 8 themes, including themes analyze, transparency, data, agency and oversight, safety and security, fairness, well-being, and accountability. Ekkola have been developed with action research, using more than 200 test users in different action cycles. Ekkola have been proven to raise awareness of AI ethics issues. It's modular and can work in a variety of software engineering contexts. It's agile, so it moves and evolves with the software development team. Ekkola, method for implementing ethically aligned AI systems. Published in Journal of Systems and Software in 2021.
Hi, I'm Alexander Sirebrenik. I'm Associate Editor of Journal of Systems and Software, and it's a great pleasure for me today to answer a couple of questions that Dave asked me to answer. So first of all, what are the coolest topics? I'm confident that the coolest topics are related to humans. They're related to how different groups of people experience software development. They're related to how different people communicate, what helps them, what impedes them, and how we can make the software development process more inclusive and more welcoming for all kinds of people with all kinds of backgrounds and with all kinds of features. The second question I wanted to mention is, how do I select my collaborations? Usually I have either a great topic which I like and I would like to explore, or a great potential collaborator that I would like to work with independently on what topic. And I'm lucky, quite often those two things coincide. Some of my collaborations, for instance, with Max Di Penta and Fiorella Zampetti, have started just because we have been scheduled to give a talk at the same session. And after listening to their presentation, I just said, wow, cool, great topic. Self-admitted technical debt sounds very nice. So let's try to work on it together. My collaboration with Nicole Novielle, Filippo Lannobili, and their team in Bari has started from the fact that I just read their paper published on a workshop, I think it was in 2015, and I just found that they've been doing great things and providing insights and ideas that I have not even started thinking about. So it was a great pleasure for me to start the discussion, and we've been working together quite for several years now. So it's the end of my video. Have fun and bye.
Hello everyone. Next Friday, we're gonna discuss this paper we wrote last year that's called Adapting Behavior-Driven Development for Large-Scale Software Systems. So in this paper, we propose an adapted version of behavior-driven development that fits large-scale software development. And then we evaluated that using the feedback of practitioners. So why one should care about behavior-driven development? Well, behavior-driven development is known to help facilitate the collaboration between different types of stakeholders in software projects. And then when we look at large-scale software projects, the number of stakeholders is much bigger than, let's say, in regular projects, and in many cases they are even distributed across different, let's say, sites. And then basically the question is whether the, let's say, original version of behavior-driven development is able to fit large-scale software projects. So in order to understand this, answer this question, we basically conduct a series of workshops with practitioners to basically present the behavior-driven development the way it is and try to instigate discussions and ask questions about whether they would think the, let's say, original version of behavior-driven development would fit large-scale software projects. So those workshops were conducted in Ericsson, and then as an outcome of those workshops, we mapped, let's say, challenges and benefits of behavior-driven development, but we especially focused on the challenges associated with behavior-driven development in large-scale software projects. And then we use that to create this adapted version of behavior-driven development that we basically asked practitioners to evaluate and give their feedback. For that, we basically use a questionnaire. And then, based on the feedback we got from the practitioners, the conclusion is that the adapted version of behavior-driven development for large-scale software projects fits the needs of large-scale software projects. And then, together with the fact that by design, behavior-driven development basically improves the collaboration between stakeholders in software projects, we achieved our goal of basically validating this proposal based on the feedback of practitioners. We're still to introduce this in a live project and do a kind of live validation of the approach, but the feedback we got is very promising. So looking forward to talk to you next Friday. See you there.
As a research-centric engineering discipline, systems and software engineering research is traditionally driven by the symbiotic relationship between theory and practice. Yet, it is commonly understood that researchers and practitioners are still having limited interactions with each other, rendering that symbiotic relationship and technology transfer cumbersome. To reduce the gap between theory and practice, the Journal of Systems and Software has introduced a new in-practice track. The overarching goal is to become the ideal forum in the area of systems and software for researchers carrying out investigations in industry to disseminate their results, as well as for practitioners to share their experiences with the academic community. Hence, we envision publications of this track to help bridging the gap between theory and practice and to achieve high academic and practical impact. We are looking forward to receiving submissions that concern applied research and practitioner insights. Applied research submissions should report results, positive or negative, concerning the experience of applying or evaluating systems and software technologies, methods, techniques, and tools in real industrial settings. At least one author of this kind of submission must be from industry. Practitioner insight submissions concern experience reports showing what actually happens in practical settings, illustrating the challenges and pain that practitioners face and presenting lessons learned. The first author of this kind of submission must be from industry. The track aims at establishing a forum for industry-related researchers and practitioners to disseminate results and make their voices being heard.
Hi, my name is Markus Kalinowski from PUC Rio.
Hi everyone, and I'm Daniel Mendes from BTH.
We are the JSS in Practice editors, and we are very much looking forward to receiving your submissions.
Hello everyone, I am Valentina Lenarduzzi from University of Oulu, and today I'm very happy to present to you our systematic literature review on technical debt prioritization that was accepted at Journal System and Software. Thanks to the huge effort dedicated by the researcher in the last year in the topic of technical debt, nowadays the company are aware about the importance to detect, to take under control and to mitigate technical debt. But what we need urgent, so what is still missing? We need to clearly understand if and when the refactory of technical debt should be prioritized, so to understand what we need to do first. Therefore, we conduct a systematic literature review to investigate the existing body of knowledge in technical debt in order to understand which approaches, factors, and tools were developed and adopted by the community. We focus both in research and industrial perspective, and we investigated the last 10 years of research, considering 557 papers. We got very interesting results. First of all, considering the different type of technical debt, we clearly identified that only code and architectural were mainly investigated by the researcher, while the other type of technical debt, such as test, requirement, and infrastructure, are really less investigated. There are few papers that consider these types of technical debt in their work. Consider the strategies. We were able to group them in 6 main categories, but as you can see, these categories are really generic, so no details were reported in the paper about each of them. Consider the different factors that should be included in the strategies and their related models. We highlighted several factors, but was impossible to clearly allocated each factor with the different context. So the factors are very generic and there is not any categorization regarding the clearly context to adopt. Consider the principle and interest, so the component of the technical debt. There is a lack of empirical evidence on measuring the principle and interest. And last, the results regarding the tools that were developed to detect and to manage the technical debt. There is a lack of solid and validated set of tools for technical debt prioritization. And these last results was also confirmed later by another work that mainly investigate specific the tools. Thanks to the results obtained, we were able to define an initial framework for technical debt prioritization. To conclude, we can say that we are in the right way, but more work should be done, especially considering the cost and the interest for the technical debt prioritization. We would like to thank for the opportunity to present our work today and to thank the audience to be here to listen our presentation. Bye-bye.
Okay, so why stuck in the mud? Is there any evidence of that? It looks like there's a lot of software engineering research, and the public at large may think that all the good thing that software is giving is the direct result of that research.
Yeah, I'm only talking about software engineering research, not software engineering industry. Software is playing an important role. There are many systems that play a critical role and that save people's lives, that support entire industries, that make our cars safer, that's for sure. So, but I'm talking about software engineering research. And the evidence, of course, is complex. First, it varies a great deal from country to country. I've seen, for example, recent figures in the US. In the US, software engineering research funding in NSF has been flat for 10 years. And software engineering research funding in all other agencies has basically evaporated. In Canada, for example, they closed down at NRC the software engineering department. And software engineering funding in Canada is not that great anymore, not what it used to be. But of course, you have counterexamples. In Sweden, software engineering funding is still pretty good because there is an industry association that is lobbying the government to support software engineering research. So It varies quite a bit from country to country, but what you can tell is that people are in general increasingly struggling to find funding.
Hello everyone, I'm highly appreciated of being a part of the JSS family and being invited to present our paper of interdisciplinary effects of technical debt in companies with mechatronic products. My name is Van B. I'm currently a PhD student and the chair of Automation Information Systems at the Technical University of Munich, working with Professor Birgit Vogelhäuser, and these are the results of my master's thesis. So the goal of today's presentation is to show you that the study's research results are not only relevant to people working in mechanics or electrics, but also to software engineers working in an interdisciplinary field. What we have done is we conducted 50 expert interviews, which were semi-structured, in 21 companies among 10 industrial sectors, including the automotive and industrial automation sector. We were able to gather 94 TD incidents and found out that due to the mechanical parts and the interfaces between the disciplines, the adverse impact to the systems is more severe. Although 47 out of the 50 experts have never heard about the term technical debt before, over 85% of them stated that the research findings of the technical debt studies in Mechatronic would benefit their business after the interview. So our three main findings are: the first, there is a clearly visible ripple-down effect throughout the product life cycle, and the initiating parties are mostly the management or multiple disciplines in mechatronics. The second one would be that most of the TD incidents were initiated in the first three stages of the product life cycle, which is the requirements TD, architectural TD, and design TD. Also, we do have a high rate of infrastructural TD, including process TD. We furthermore performed a correlation analysis and found out that different disciplines are differently affected by the types of TD. So we can see that all the disciplines are similarly affected by infrastructural TD. However, if we have a look at the software engineers, they are more bothered by requirements TD, and also working in all three disciplines, the requirements TD bar is really high compared to what we have expected for software engineers, where the research focus has been on architectural TD and code TD since. Furthermore, we have elaborated on at which point the frequency and impact of the technical debt characteristics of our previous study is representative. We did this follow-up study with 15 out of the 50 experts. So if you are interested in further research results, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Markus Kalinowski, professor at PUC Rio and editor of the JSS and Practice track. Today I'm here at one of my favorite places in Rio de Janeiro to tell you a little secret that I always share with my students, which significantly improves my quality of life in academia. It's a mindset. Seeing other scientists positively as people working together on a common mission, generally cheering for their success and helping them to achieve their goals instead of competing with them, creates a collaborative atmosphere that can be life-changing. Success isn't about how much money you make or how many papers you publish. It's about the difference you make in people's lives. This mindset will probably lead you to make lots of friends all over the world and having a real pleasant academic journey. I myself am happy to have established so many lifelong relationships of trust and being able to call so many colleagues within our scientific community friends. Whenever you want to talk about science, be it virtually or physically visiting Rio, feel free to reach out. It's one of my favorite things in life. And don't forget to submit your papers tackling problems of the systems and software industry to the JSS in Practice track.
We have all heard of pair programming, where two developers work side by side with only one keyboard, seeking to strengthen knowledge sharing, collective ownership and quality, getting the code reviewed on the go and more. But what happens if the pair isn't a pair anymore, but a whole bunch of people? 3, 5, even more. How about an entire team sharing a single keyboard? That's what is called mob programming, and that is the topic of our paper. Mob programming from avant-garde experimentation to established practice. Because mob programming is relatively new. Looking at the literature, we don't find much. But there is an upward trend. We also observe a steadily growing interest among practitioners for the last several years. There are, of course, many variants of mob programming. Some are more rigorous, with strictly defined roles and precisely timed rotation schemes to ensure that everybody takes turns and nobody dozes off in the back, and some are more informal, more ad hoc. The obvious question when first hearing of this is that an efficient use of an entire team? To have 6 people look on while one is typing? And it's a reasonable question. It's the same question as used to be asked of pair programming, and is still asked by some. But even if we accept that 2 people at one keyboard is a good idea, surely there has to be some upper limit. In our paper, we identify a set of distinct reported benefits, variables, and risks of mob programming, and analyze them by studying an industry team practicing mob programming every day of the week for a year, and interviewing all their members. As the briefest of summaries, we find that the impact on overall productivity is clearly dependent on the type of task. The more complex and wide in scope the problem, the more applicable mob programming becomes. Which stands to reason. We can all imagine how having an entire team watch one person perform some simple routine task isn't the best use of their time. We also find that people have very different individual preferences. Previous papers have discussed the relevance of introversion and extroversion in this context. But that is not necessarily the most important for developers' ability to perform in a mob. Critically, we find that their productivity and their level of comfort in the mob are 2 different things. Some think it's a breeze, while others are dead on their feet after a long mobbing session, making it unsustainable for them, even though they are highly productive and valued in the mob programming session. Other findings and much more detail is available in the paper itself, and many more questions remain to be answered. We find mob programming to be a fascinating topic, and we are confident that we haven't heard the last of this emergent practice.
So if there little research, maybe this research has a big impact on industry. How much transfer of that research do we see happening to the practitioners?
Of course, it's difficult to measure, but look, for example, we are at ICSI, the flagship conference in software engineering. Look at the percentage of papers that report an actual industrial case study or that show any kind of evidence of collaboration with industry. You will see that that percentage is very small. I'm not talking about open source systems, okay? I'm talking about real industrial software. Look at the number of participants from industry coming to ICSI. And again, I'm not referring to people working in corporate research centers. I'm referring to business units. That percentage is 5% perhaps.
Good evening all. I will present a brief overview of our paper, A Functional Safety Assessment Method for Cooperative Automotive Architecture. I will start with what each phrase means, followed by the research questions and contributions. Let's start with the term cooperative. Cooperative driving refers to collective traffic optimization of a set of vehicles by sharing information like driving decision, acceleration, and steering angle. This collective optimization is enabled by software. Automotive companies all over the globe is in a race to roll out their cooperative driving capable vehicles on road. In our work, we focus on the safety aspects of cooperative driving systems, specifically functional safety, which is safety with respect to malfunction of software and electronic components that run the software. In this context, our first research question is how to derive safety requirements for cooperative driving. We answer this research question in 2 steps. First, a methodology, followed by application of the methodology via a case study. Our methodology starts with 1. Identifying the hazardous situation specific to cooperative use case, and 2. Cooperative architecture, which is a collective architecture of all the participating vehicles in the cooperative driving. Application of our method yields safety requirements specific to cooperative perspective. Note that our method is an extension of automotive industry standard requirement elicitation, which focuses only on requirements specific to individual vehicles. For understanding the efficacy and applicability of our method, we use it on a cooperative driving use case, platooning. where the participating vehicles form a train with only the first or lead vehicle driven by a human and the rest autonomously follow the lead vehicle, optimizing intervehicular distance. Application of our methodology showed that 48% of the requirements were cooperative driving specific. A natural question after requirements is how to assess these requirements. Well, our second research question focuses on assessment specifically in the software architecture of the participating vehicles. Again, we answer the research question in 2 steps with a methodology and a case study. We start with software architecture and requirements. Our methodology adapts the proven architecture trade-off analysis method, or ATOM for short, to automotive software and the quality attribute safety. The result of application of our methodology is 2 lists of requirements, one fulfilled with why and how these requirements are fulfilled, and second, a list of non-fulfilled requirements. Our case study on a real-life prototype showed that only 23% of all requirements were met, and our findings were confirmed by the designers and developers of the prototype, showing the efficacy of our method. To summarize, we find that cooperative driving specific safety requirements are often overlooked and the industry standard do not consider them. We presented a methodology to elicit and assess the safety requirements for cooperative driving. Our case study showed that the efficacy of our method with 48% of all requirements in our case study belonging to cooperative driving specific. Thank you.
About impact. So let's start with what is impact anyway? And this is a general question about, well, what is the impact of your life, or in particular of your professional life? How do your actions change the world? We as researchers, we want to make the world a better place. And this is something that gives meaning and purpose to our professional life, also to our private life, of course, but here I'm talking about the professional life. So we want to change the world, want to make it better, and this is why we do research in the area. And this is a noble goal, and yes, I'm very happy about that. What is it that makes impactful research, or what is it that makes good research? The elder statesman of our faculty, that's Professor Holz, gave me 3 metrics by which he would go and detect whether some piece of research would be impactful. He said that, is this hard, or is this something that anyone could have done? And they call this intellectual challenge. Second question is your research specific to a context, or can it be reused again and again? And this is what he called elegance. And lastly, which was a rather recent addition, can someone make money with it? This is usefulness. And according to these 3 metrics, we can also come up with an innovation metric, which is the delta in any of these metrics. So did we have an increase in usefulness, an increase in elegance, and likewise?
Open data ecosystems, an empirical investigation into an emerging industry collaboration concept. A JSS paper by me, Per Runesson from Lund University, Sweden, and my colleagues Thomas Olsson and Johan Linåker of Research Institutes of Sweden. Is data the new oil? It has been claimed so for quite a long time, and to some extent it's true. Data fuels businesses. Data needs refining. Data creates oligopoles, since it focuses the power of the market to a few companies that own a lot of data. Are there any green options to the oil metaphor? Is there anything related to open source for data? Yes, there are open data ecosystems. A data ecosystem is a network community of actors with a joint interest around the data. The ecosystem builds on a technological platform and evolves that platform as well. It enables actors to process data and foster innovation through the data and through collaboration around the data. And the ecosystem is focused on collaboration on the data and on the boundary resources, such as the technological platform. We have studied 3 emerging ecosystems. All of them are in a greenhouse stage where they are under establishment. They represent 3 different markets, 3 different types of data, and a combination of different approaches to ownership and organization. In our research, we have made findings in 4 different areas related to value, intrinsics, governance, and evolution of data ecosystems. For value, business value can be in the data or in the collaboration around the data, or in both. Regarding the intrinsics of the data, depending on how core the data is to the business, how current it is, and the level of granularity, it could be easier or harder to share it. It's important to standardize format and legal framework. Regarding governance, the level of openness and platform ownership must be balanced with the goal of the ecosystem. Collaboration and competition between the partners in an ecosystem must coexist, and there must be incentives to acquire new data and to improve it. And for the evolution of ecosystems, there is a need for more advanced business models and tool support for the work. If you want to go green with your data, read more in JSS on open data ecosystems.
If you look at software engineering research from the outside, suppose you are a programming language researcher, then you find that software engineering totally lacks intellectual challenge. Where are your type equations? Where are your equations anyway? I mean, where is your big formal building that you create? Not enough of that in software engineering. Same thing from a formal methods perspective. Software engineering is so inelegant. It's full of details you cannot control, starting with humans in the first place. So where is the nice, elegant abstraction in software engineering? From an industry perspective, it's actually the other way around. There we lack immediate usefulness. Why can't I just download your super duper method and apply it right away and get immediate returns? But no, you can't. Oh, your tool doesn't work on Fortran 77. Oh, that's too bad. Well, we thought it was useful. Well, it isn't. And since I'm now working in a security research center, I can tell you that from their perspective, I am a full theory person, because what I'm doing is always a bit too abstract for their taste, and they want something that gets them another security vulnerability immediately, rather than a general principle that in principle could contribute to. When they hear the word principle, that's already theory for them.
Everyone, this is Kuiliu. I'm very happy to share our work about automatic program repair. Automatic program repair has been studied for more than 10 years. It consists of 3 basic processes: fault localization, patch generation, and patch validation. In the literature, researchers normally compare the performance of APR tools by counting the number of bugs fixed by each APR tools. However, this could be biased, since different APR tools are normally configured with different fault localization techniques and are set with different time limitations for fixing bugs. If an APR tool is configured with a better fault localization technique and is set with a longer time limitation, it is possible to fix more bugs than other APR tools. On the other hand, researchers also proposed to evaluating the efficiency of APR tools by the time cost of fixing each bug. However, this could be biased as well, since different buggy programs contain different buggy test cases. For example, we calculate the CPU time costs for compiling and testing different software programs with 2 different machines. The results show that the time costs for different programs on different machines are significantly different, and APR tools are normally evaluated on different experimental platforms. Considering the potential biases in evaluating APR tools, we proposed 4 research questions from 4 aspects: bug fixing performance, bug fixing efficiency, diversity of fixed bugs, and evaluation benchmark. For the first research question, we proposed 2 metrics: upper bound repair performance and fault localization sensitiveness. With these 2 new metrics, we get new results that are not reported before. For the second research question, we proposed a new metric of the number of patches generated by each APR tool to evaluate the efficiency of APR tools. For the third research question, we propose to evaluate APR tools from 3 aspects: the effectiveness in applying diverse repair patterns, the effectiveness in addressing more or less complex bugs, and the effectiveness in addressing more or less important bugs. For the last research question, we discussed the bias in evaluating APR tools with a single benchmark. This work was motivated by the potential bias evaluation on APR tools, and we thus discussed the challenges and opportunities to boost the program repair. Thank you for your attention.
So, how can you have impact? And what are the ways that you can have impact? Well, there's many ways. First, of course, as a researcher. Why do we have research in the first place? Because researchers are supposed to take risks that no one else takes. Research is risky by construction. You don't know what you're aiming for, and you should expect to fail and to fail again, because this is built in. Once you have tenured, the principle of tenure is to make it possible for you to go for even grander challenges, to take even larger risks. And please take that gift and make use of it. Work on the grand stuff. And this is something I want to emphasize again and again. You should go and make use of that. You should build things. You should try out things. You should find out what works and what doesn't. Find the pain points. What is it that doesn't work? What is it where you can help? This is one of your most noblest, one of the most noblest expectations, one of the most noblest ways that you can give back to society what society expects from you. This is not always easy, but in particular, since we don't always have the resources to change the world, which means that, well, if we cannot change the world, we can at least work on a model of the world that is work in the small abstract things, prototype things, do all you can to make things as easy and swift as possible for you, and try to, if you can solve things in the small, if you can solve things in the abstract, maybe there's a chance that you will also be able to solve them in the large with all its fuzzy and hairy details.
Hi everyone, my name is Christian Politovsky. Today I'm going to present this paper, Our Game Engine Software Framework, a three-perspective study. This work was done with the help of this lovely gentleman, Professor Fabio, Dr. João, Professor Marco, and Professor Jan. So in this paper, we compare open source video game engines with traditional open source software frameworks. We check if they share similar characteristics, and we did that with three perspectives: literature, code, and human. We also survey 124 game engine developers. We separate those perspectives in three research questions: literature, code, and human. The first one is literature. So a framework is a reusable set of libraries. It helps developers to focus on the high-level task and also provide a reusable pattern to speed up the development. As for the game engine, that is the technology behind the game. It separates the game engine from the assets, like the art assets, and also helps to work collaboratively in the game as a team. As for the method, we use it GitHub, and we scrap projects from GitHub, more than 1,000 for each one of them. We filter the projects, we filter again manually, we use some tools to provide metrics, we download the projects, we calculate again new metrics, and then we see the results. As for the languages and licenses, for the engines, the C family is the most used one: C++, C, and C#. As for the framework, JavaScript on the top, Python and PHP. License, MIT license, by far the most used one. As for the project side, comparing game engines and frameworks, engines are bigger regarding the language size, total size, and number of files. When we check versions, we see that the community around frameworks, they use a lot of tags to separate versions. The game engine community, not that much, as you can see here in the graph. As for the dependency of the collaborators in each project, we check the track factor of each one of the projects. We verify that most of the game engines and frameworks, they do have a strong dependency in a very few number of contributors. The research question number 3 is related to the human aspect, and for example, in the first question we ask, why did you create the game engine? And their answer is to have full control of the environment, to learn how to build the game engine, and to help to create the game. Concluding this short presentation, open source game engines share the similarities with open source frameworks, mostly regarding their concepts, the code characteristics, and the contribution effort. Engine projects are mainly personal. The communities around frameworks projects are larger, with longer lifespan, more releases, better track factor, but not by much as we saw, and more popularity. Finally, the low track factor and smaller user base suggest that more care should be given to documentation, especially in the open source game engines. Otherwise, those projects eventually will gonna rest in a dark corner of GitHub. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Cristiano Politovski. Please reach me in this email and on Twitter. Please take a look at the paper. All the results are there. The code also is the code and all the data is also available. And thank you very much. Have a good day.
I wanna be an engineer, so freaking bad. Optimize the things I've always had.
Alright, that's it for today. We hope you have enjoyed today's JSS Happy Hour. Remember, the hashtag is JSS Happy Hour. Don't forget to share on Twitter. And remember, this video in its complete version will be available on YouTube shortly after the conclusion of this broadcast. Hope you guys enjoy and have a great weekend.
Yeah, I would have a show on Discovery, hoping that everybody in the country would watch me on the HD. I'd probably pull an Orville right in the Wilbur, build a plane and take the rudder and dip it in silver. Give away a few smartphones like Einstein, here, have this. Take my protractor out and do some mathematics. It's been a couple years since I've been single, so you can find me working late and living off ho-hos. Brain food for the intelligent. Sometimes I like to compliment myself for being smart, but you can call me brilliant. Yeah, call me a geek or maybe even nerd, but face the facts, we the one be ruling this world.
Oh, every time I close my eyes,
what you see,
I calculate a new design. Oh yeah, an efficient way to quantify. Oh, I swear my patent would be here if I was an engineer.
Yeah, solve it.
Yeah, I'm an engineer here.
I be playing Xbox with some scientists, working with geologists. Maybe ask a girl out and get lucky with a little kiss. Or not because I have to formulate a program in C++ or going back and using Fortran. Toss a few equations in just for the heck of it. Solve my own problem just so I can delineate. Yeah, I be coming on a whole new level, like comparing HDMI to a coax cable. Sometimes I give directions with Euclidean vectors and transfer files faster on eSATA connectors. I know we all have a similar dream to build cantilever beams. It makes me wanna sing.
I wanna be an engineer, so freaking bad. Optimize the things I've always had. I wanna be on the cover of PC magazine, smiling next to Pentium machines. Oh, every time I close my eyes, I calculate a new design, an efficient way to quantify. Oh, I swear my patent would be